Welcome back to my channel. Today is the day that I'm going to be building the hitching rail. I've already dug the post holes down to about 3.5 feet and just put the poles in, or the post in. And so now I'll continue on with the build. Wish me luck. In the comments, give me some tips on what you might have done differently, because this is a learning process for me, as it being my first one, and I do have to have another one put in. So yeah, let's get to it today, and yeah, let's see if we can get this done. And by the way, this is Chicago. He is an ex-Grand Prix show jumper that I got from a rescue, which you'll be learning more about my herd in new videos to come. And also, thank you very much for sticking around to the end. You will be helping out my channel greatly. I am just trying to get this started and to share my wonderful herd with you. They're all fabulous horses, and I just love them, and I hope that you will too. So stick around to the end and see how this hitching rail comes out. Wish me luck.
A hitching rail is usually around 42 to 48 inches high. So for my height, that would be about chest high. So I needed to make sure that the poles were deep enough. So I dug down about 3.5 feet. So that'd leave about 5 feet above ground with the 8-foot poles that I purchased. I needed to remove probably about 12 inches from the top of the poles. So after getting my measurements, I removed the poles to drag them to the backyard. It was my punishment for not having the proper tools to do this part of the job. So a little bit of advice, make sure you have the proper tools. Having cordless drills and saws are definitely a benefit. So that would have definitely helped in this case. But nope, here I am. I get to drag these poles all the way to my backyard so I have electricity to use the saw. Next step was to cut off about the 12 inches. And of course, the saw did not go all the way through, so I had to use a little bit of ingenuity with a hatchet and a hammer. I don't suggest this, so be careful. Again, use the proper tools. But this is Lisa doing what Lisa does the best. So next was having to get out a notch so that way it would sit flush to the vertical poles. Now, time to drag the poles back. Turn up the volume so you can hear the dragging. And probably my heavy breathing, because by this time I was exhausted. The next step of the process is to get the poles back into the ground so that way I can make sure that everything is level, and also to make sure that the height is going to be at a good height. Remember the 42 to 48 inches or chest high. My property naturally has a slope, so I want to make sure that my poles are going to be, the horizontal pole is going to be even. So I put just a small 2x4 on top of them so that way I could put my level. So that might be another little helpful tip, is get a level just to make things a little bit easier instead of just trying to eyeball it. But if you're not too worried about it, then don't worry about it. Now time to recheck the measurement. So always, if you are sort of a perfectionist, or even if you're not, double and triple check your measurements. I wouldn't say that I'm a perfectionist, but here it was a little bit off. So I was contemplating on, do I remove the dirt from the left pole or add dirt to the right pole? That is the question. I decided to choose the hard route and remove the dirt from the left pole. Now that I'm happy with it being level, time to recruit some help to get the horizontal pole up.
Can you help me with something?
Yeah, what's up?
I just want to lift this pole on top of there to see if I got the cuts right. Alright, let's get in there. So there's flat spots on the bottom of this pole that are going to go on top of that.
Okay.
So we'll see how, if I got them even or not. Are you hanging over on that side? But is this going to be too high?
Yes, it is too high. Off camera, I ended up doing some additional measurements and discovered, yes, I did not account for the 4 inches of the pole, of the horizontal pole. So I ended up cutting off an extra, I'd probably say about 3 inches. But of course I didn't video that because there was some colorful language going on at that point. So after I got done doing that, I decided to call it a day because I was just exhausted at that point. And after finding that error in my measurements and having to do some extra cutting, that was it. I was done. It's the next day and I've recovered from yesterday's fun. Time to add the concrete. This will help in case if a horse happens to pull back. It gives the pole a little bit more rigidity. I didn't have enough concrete, I discovered after mixing. I thought that I did. I'm making the decision to just go with it and what I have. So don't follow my lead. Go get more concrete. Or plan ahead and have the correct amount. Next, I want to make sure the poles are perfectly vertical, or as in construction terms, I want to make sure that it's plumbed.
That's it.
Now that the poles are setting, I want to clean up the area of all the weeds in preparation of putting down the stall mats. Because I don't need to wait for the concrete to fully cure, I'm filling the holes in with the dirt. It serves 2 purposes. It'll help the concrete cure a little bit slower, and it'll also give the poles a little bit more stability for the curing. Granted, I didn't have a lot of concrete in there to begin with, but you know. Now I'm adding on a little bit of water to the dirt to help it settle a little bit more. With the desert sand and adding a little bit of water to it, it kind of almost becomes a hard concrete, but just not as strong. Time to get working on putting on the horizontal pole. To make it a little bit easier, I am drilling some pilot holes. So that way the 5/16 by 10 inch lag bolt that I'm installing will hopefully go in a little bit easier. This wood down the center seems to be pretty hard. So just trying to figure out an easier way of being able to get the lag bolt in. After drilling the pilot hole through the vertical poles, I am now doing the measurements on the horizontal pole. So that way the 2 pilot holes on the horizontals and the verticals will line up. That's the plan anyways. Now time to bend the flat bar. I am using a 1 3/8 by 3 feet of zinc plated steel flat bar. Now the fun begins of trying to get this 10-inch long lag bolt through the horizontal pole into the vertical pole. I was only able to get it in probably about 3 inches before it stopped, and I ended up having to do the rest of it by hand by using a ratchet. Remember I mentioned having the proper tools, so make sure that you have a drill that's strong enough. Off camera, I did put in all the other lag bolts into the straps that are holding the horizontal pole to the vertical. I ended up putting 3 on each side for each pole, for a total of 6 on each vertical pole. And finally, the hitching rail is done. Now time to move over the stall mats. I have 2 C-clamps that I use to clamp down onto the stall mats to give myself handles. It makes moving these heavy stall mats so much easier. I did do another YouTube video, so head on over and watch that video. I did a little instruction on how to use the C-clamps. After I got these stall mats down, I only had 3 stall mats that I used, and I do have 4, so I ended up rotating the stall mats around so it was a little bit wider and a little bit longer, and it worked out a lot better. Thank you for sticking around to the end to watch the final build of the hitch rail. And don't forget to check out the description below to get a list of all the items that I used. And also don't forget to hit that subscribe button to join the herd. Thanks for watching. Now go hug your horse.